The phone lit the room like a siren, and the message said, "We need to talk." Maya stared until the words blurred, and the second ping cut deeper than the first. Ethan said, "Are you awake?" And she answered, "Always, for you." The typing dots pulsed, then died, and the silence felt like a verdict. She said, "Is something wrong?" And the ceiling fan sliced the dark into slow, anxious loops. A photo popped from a friend's story, and his smile was framed by a city she did not share. Maya said, "You promised to call tonight." He replied, "Time got away from me." She thought, "It keeps choosing you, not us." The kettle clicked off in the kitchen, but she did not move. She said, "I waited 3 hours." He said, "Can we talk tomorrow?" The phone trembled in her hand as if it wanted to leap. She whispered, "I kept the night open for you." He sent the last line, "I think I'm changing," and the screen dimmed like a closing door. Morning leaked in like a secret she did not consent to, and the city pretended not to notice. Maya said, "I barely slept," and the mirror said it back with swollen eyes. Mug warmed her hands while the phone stayed cold. Ethan said, "I'm slammed today," and she measured the miles inside those words. She said, "I cleared my night for you," and the calendar squares looked hollow. A siren outside stretched time across the street and snapped it thin. She scrolled through their old jokes and felt them turn brittle. Lena said, "You can't keep bleeding for texts," and the truth stung like alcohol. Maya said, "He is trying," and doubt shrugged from the sink like a shadow. The clock hopped across zones, but her heart kept one. She whispered, "Tell me this is a rough patch," and the room refused to answer. She typed, "Call me when you can," and left the message like a light in a window. The day kept sprinting while she walked. Maya said, "He used to call first," and the elevator echoed with no opinion. A meeting reminder chimed, and she silenced it like a mosquito. Ethan said, "Flight delays, can we push?" And relief and shame collided in her chest. She said, "Of course," and the word felt too easy. She remembered booking a ticket once and canceling it for his promotion party. That never happened. The memory sighed like a door in an old house. A coworker laughed down the hall, and the sound tasted like someone else's joy. Lena said, "Your heart isn't a waiting room," and the phrase landed hard. Maya said, "I'll make it work," and the sentence carried a limp. She stared at her lock screen and saw herself staring back. She typed, "I'm here," and wondered where here was. Lena found her at lunch and pushed a water across the table like a peace offering. Lena said, "Tell me the truth," and the clatter around them blurred. Maya said, "He's different," and the word bent under its own weight. She hated how need could make a person tiny. Ethan said, "Tonight, I promise," and she felt the promise fray as it arrived. She said, "I can wait," and the words stacked like chairs no one sat on. Lena said, "You deserve clocks that match," and the line struck a hidden bell. The city heat pressed on glass, and time melted into a slow drip. Maya remembered his first gift, a cheap adapter that made her laugh. She said, "We were good then," and the air nodded sadly. Lena said, "Be good to you now," and silence accepted the job. Maya put her phone face up as if transparency could save her. She whispered, "Please call," and left the plea on the table. Evening arrived dressed like an apology, and brought nothing with it. Street lights blinked awake, and the room collected shadows. Ethan said, "Running late, promise soon," and the message felt autopiloted. Maya said, "I'm still up," and the admission sounded like a confession. A new story tag flashed, and his shoulder was in the frame beside a woman she did not know. She felt the air lose oxygen. She said, "Who is she?" and the dots danced, then hid. The radiator ticked like a countdown. She typed, "Say something honest," and stared at the send arrow until it glowed. Lena said, "Do not bargain with silence," and the words steadied her spine. She locked the phone and set it face down, but the ghost of the screen burned her palm. She whispered, "Not again," and the night stared back without mercy. Maya dragged herself into daylight her heart stitched to a phone that gave little back. She said, "I can't keep waiting," yet her thumb refreshed messages as if hope lived in pixels. Ethan replied, "Work's insane," and she swallowed the excuse whole. Lena said, "You are burning yourself down for scraps," and the truth left ash in her chest. Maya whispered, "He loves me," though the silence argued louder. She folded laundry that smelled like the past, shirts he once teased her for wearing. A photo frame by the window caught her eye, his smile frozen in a different season. She said, "This matters," but the words cracked like thin glass. Ethan wrote, "I'll call soon," and her pulse obeyed, loyal to promises that limp. She closed her eyes and remembered his voice breaking oceans, a sound she still believed in. The kettle whistled sharp, but she let it scream, as if even machines mirrored her neglect. At her desk, emails piled like bricks, and every ping reminded her of messages she longed for. Maya said, "I'm here," into a chat bubble that stayed blue and unanswered. Ethan texted later promise, and the word promise bent under repetition. She scrolled to their first video call, his smile crisp and sincere, her laughter raw and unguarded. Lena messaged, "Don't dig graves for Mabes," and Maya closed the notification fast. She said, "He cares," but her eyes flicked to the empty chair beside her. Coworker asked, "You okay?" And she nodded, lips stitched by denial. The day grew long, the windows bleeding gold into gray. Maya whispered, "Please be real," and the plea hung fragile in recycled air. The screen dimmed, her reflection faint in its glass, two faces in one holding on, the other fading. Dinner sat untouched as the city hummed outside. Maya said, "I saved a place," glancing at the chair across from her. Ethan's text arrived, meeting ran long, and she stabbed at rice gone cold. She said, "You promised today," but the empty air held no echo. A neighbor's laughter leaked through thin walls, their joy slicing her solitude. Lena called, "Don't let hunger turn to habit," and Maya forced a smile into the receiver. She said, "I'll wait," though the food had already given up steam. A candle burned low, wax curling like time itself. She whispered, "This is love," but the conviction trembled. Another ping, a meme he forwarded without thought, and she stared as if it could rebuild trust. The night deepened, and silence pulled the chair tighter across from her, the absence seated like a guest. The weekend crept in, and Maya dressed like she was preparing for him, though the screen was her only visitor. She said, "I'll wear the red one," pulling the dress smooth against her skin. Ethan sent a half-hearted cute, and she replayed it like gospel. Lena snapped, "Stop auditioning for his silence," but Maya turned to the mirror with hope lit faintly in her eyes. She said, "He'll notice," curling her hair with precision, her hands trembling at the root. The clock muttered minutes too loud. She refreshed her inbox, the cursor blinking like a metronome. She whispered, "Don't cancel," and the words fogged the glass as she leaned closer. His last message, raincheck, 2 syllables that felt like shackles. She sat back down, the red fabric folding under her, bright against the dim, a fire smothered by neglect. Sunday mornings once belonged to them, but now it was only her shadow crossing the floor. Maya said, "Remember our ritual?" Scrolling old photos of pancakes stacked like memories. Ethan's message blinked, "Busy today," and the words felt like erasure. She set the table anyway, cutlery aligned like soldiers, plates empty, coffee steaming. She whispered, "I'll keep it alive," though the ritual had already gone stale. Lena said, "Traditions don't matter if he doesn't show up," and the voice cracked her denial. Maya answered, "It matters to me," her tone small but stubborn. The syrup bottle caught sunlight, golden and mocking. She poured it onto nothing, a gesture to ghosts. Outside, church bells rang with cruel cheer. She held her phone to her chest, hoping for a vibration, but silence won the service. She said, "I'm still here," and the echo fell flat. The day split into clocks that refused to agree, and Maya kept translating love into minutes. She said, "Tell me when you are free," and the reply arrived careful and late. Ethan said, Tomorrow looks better, and tomorrow slipped the leash. A rooftop tag placed him in a sky she did not share, and a woman leaned into the frame like a rumor. She typed, "Who is she?" and her courage flickered like a weak bulb. He said, "Cow worker," and the word perched uncertain, feathers not yet grown. Lena said, "Your gut is ringing," and the sound crawled under Maya's ribs. She opened a time zone app and watched cities slide east while hope thinned. The map drew lines that promised connection and delivered distance. She said, "I am not asking for miracles," and surrender salted her tongue. Ethan said, "Trust me," and the promise clicked like a seat belt before impact. Maya stacked alarms like sandbags against a flood and set 3 reminders for one call. She said, "I can do midnight," and her calendar sighed. Ethan said, "I can do morning," and morning belonged to a different city. She drafted questions that sounded like faith and deleted them one by one. The first alarm rang, and hope rose too fast. He wrote, running behind, and time ran with him. She said, "I will wait," and the sentence limped. The second alarm chirped a smaller courage. She stared at world clocks that glowed like little suns and warmed nothing. Lena said, "You cannot outwork silence," and the truth sat heavy on the desk. The third alarm buzzed, then died, and the room exhaled her disappointment. She typed, "Whenever you can," and the words felt like a hallway with no doors. Her birthday arrived wearing quiet shoes and placed a candle on the table like a dare. Maya said, "9 tonight, right?" and the clock nodded without conviction. Ethan replied, "Happy B-Day," with a confetti emoji that did the heavy lifting. She cut a cupcake and listened for his voice in the frosting. The flame tilted and steadied, patient in a way people were not. She said, "Can we FaceTime?" and the bubbles appeared then drowned. A delivery bike rattled the window and carried someone else's celebration. Lena texted, "Do not grade yourself by his absence," and the line ached sweet and sharp. Maya whispered, "One call is not too much," and the candle agreed. She sang 2 soft syllables of a song and laughed at the emptiness of it. The wax collapsed, and she let the room go dark before the wish could form. The call arrived jagged and late, like a doorbell no one expects. Maya said, "Stay with me," and the connection stuttered. Ethan said, "Signal's bad," over a chorus of glasses and a woman's bright laugh. She said, "Where are you?" and the pause carried the weight of a story not told. He said, "Just out with the team," and the words wore casual like a cheap suit. She leaned closer and heard music stitched through his breath. Lena's earlier warning flashed like a hazard light in her head. Maya said, "I need more than later," and the plea sharpened her voice. He said, "Why do you always assume the worst?" and the question turned the knife. The screen froze on his smile and then shattered into pixels. Pixels, she said, "because I am holding the pieces," and the line cut to quiet. Maya opened their archives like a box of fragile ornaments and searched for proof she could trust. She said, "We mattered here," touching the thread of an old promise. A payment receipt surfaced, and memory stung of the rent she helped during his lean month. Ethan had said, "I will make it up to you," and the balance never arrived. She typed a boundary and watched it blink, a small brave light. Lena said, "Write what you need, then see if he meets it," and the sentence steadied her hand. She wrote, "Call me by midnight your time," and the condition stood upright. The clock's hands kept stepping over her chest like strangers. She said, "If you care, you will show up," and press send. The apartment fell quiet enough to hear the radiator count. She waited for the phone to breathe, and it chose to sleep. The midnight deadline expired, and her phone glowed with silence sharp enough to cut. Maya said, "He chose not to show," and the words weighed like iron. Ethan messaged hours later, "Fell asleep, sorry," and the apology carried dust. She said, "I asked for one thing," and her chest ached with how small it was. The fridge hummed louder than her hope. Lena said, "It's not sleep, it's neglect," and the truth rattled the hinges of her denial. Maya whispered, I can't keep bending, but her spine trembled. She stared at his old gift, a keychain globe, and spun it until continents blurred. Ethan wrote, "You're overreacting," and the dismissal pressed her heart thin. She said, "Overreacting is what happens when you underdeliver." But she didn't hit send. The screen dimmed again, and her reflection sat heavier than the room itself. Morning cracked open with a message she wished she hadn't seen. Ethan wrote, "Didn't want to say before, but I'm seeing someone," and the floor shifted. Maya said, her hands trembling. A photo surfaced, Sophia at his side, their closeness more truth than lie. Lena said, "You knew," and the words landed like stones. Maya whispered, "Knowing hurts less than seeing," and the wound bled open. She scrolled their history, every promise tasting bitter. Ethan texted, "It just happened," and the excuse felt rehearsed. She said, "No, you built it," her breath breaking in half. The clock ticked with cruelty, each second pulling her further from the life she thought she had. She whispered, "I stayed awake for this," and the day turned merciless. The betrayal spread through her chest like wildfire, but she reached for proof in her own sacrifices. Maya said, "I sent money when he couldn't pay rent," remembering transfers that emptied her account. Ethan once said, "I'll pay you back," but the balance was still silence. Lena said, "He fed off your love," and Maya winced at how accurate it felt. She whispered, "I built his comfort," and the walls pressed closer. She opened her bank app, the numbers smaller than her devotion. A receipt glared at her, ink still fresh in memory. Ethan texted, "I didn't ask you to," and the cruelty twisted the knife. She said, "No, you just accepted," and tears finally cracked her face. The truth carved itself clear. She had been the giver, and he had been the void. She walked outside, the city buzzing, but her chest carried silence louder than traffic. Maya said, "I don't want to cry here," and her voice cracked anyway. People streamed past, unbothered by her breaking. Lena's message buzzed, "Meet me now," and she clung to it like rope. She whispered, "I need someone real," and the crowd blurred. Ethan wrote, "We can still talk," and she almost laughed at the audacity. She typed no, but deleted it, her thumb shaking. The crosswalk beeped steady, urging her forward, but she stood still. She said, "I was loyal," and the wind shoved the words back. The skyscrapers leaned heavy above her, indifferent giants. Her reflection in a store window stared back, hollow but alive. She whispered, "I will not disappear," and stepped forward. Lena pulled her into a cafe corner and slid a coffee across like an anchor. Lena said, "He doesn't deserve your pain," her voice fierce but soft. Maya said, "I feel emptied out," and her palms shook. The smell of roasted beans wrapped around them, fragile comfort. Ethan texted, "Don't make this harder," and Maya felt rage stir for the first time. She said, "He already did," and the words steadied her spine. Lena said, "Start again with yourself," and the phrase carved a new path. Maya whispered, "How?" and Lena simply held her hand across the table. The clinking cups around them carried on, but their corner bent quiet. Maya said, "I will try," and the coffee steamed between them like a fragile vow. She leaned back, her chest hollow but no longer collapsing. The night boiled with messages sharp as knives, and Maya typed faster than her heart could keep up. She said, "You lied," and her words bled red on the screen. Ethan answered, "It wasn't like that," but excuses drowned in their weight. She said, "You built a life without me," her tears striking the keys. His reply landed cold, "You were too much sometimes." The silence after scorched her chest. Lena's voice echoed from memory, "Don't beg to be seen." Maya said, "I gave you years," and the confession cracked like glass. Ethan wrote, "I never asked," and the cruelty was final. She whispered, "No, but you took," and her breath shivered in the dark. The confrontation burned through cables and left only ashes on her skin. The night stood witness as her heart broke out loud. Maya dialed, her voice trembling, and the ring cut her chest open. Ethan answered with background laughter thick like betrayal. She said, "Do not laugh while I break," and the line shook. He said, "You're making a scene," his tone detached. She said, "I deserve more than silence," her hands pressed to her temples. He sighed, "I can't keep this up," and the knife twisted. She said, "Then say it," and her pulse thundered. He paused long enough to crush her, then muttered, "I don't love you anymore." The words split her open, but rage flickered. She said, "You wasted me," and the call ended with a flat tone, a sound colder than goodbye. She collapsed against the bed frame, the phone still burning in her hand. The rage arrived late but strong, filling her veins with heat. Maya said, "I will not let you erase me," her voice raw. She opened drawers, tearing out his letters, their edges sharp with memory. Ethan had once written "Forever us," but forever ended early. She ripped paper into confetti of lies. Lena called, "Burn it, don't bleed for it," and the voice steadied her. Maya whispered, "I will burn," and struck a match. The flame climbed like vengeance, curling ink into smoke. She said, "Here lies my hope," and the ashes drifted upward. The fire cracked in the sink, its glow more honest than Ethan had ever been. She whispered, "This is the only promise he kept," and tears blurred the flame until it was just light. Her chest screamed for release, so she stepped into the night air sharp with cold. Maya said, "I will not stay trapped," her breath white against the dark. She walked until her legs shook, city lights flickering like indifferent stars. A bar door opened, laughter spilling, but she walked past. She whispered, "I am done with empty echoes," her steps quickening. Lena's call buzzed, "Where are you?" And she answered, finding air. Her feet carried her to the bridge, its steel humming. She leaned against the railing, the river below whispering in ripples. She said, "I carried his world," and the admission broke the night. Cars rushed past, their headlights streaking. She whispered, "But he never carried mine," and the wind lifted her words, scattering them into silence. The phone buzzed again, Ethan's name glowing like poison. Maya said, "This is the last time," her thumb hovering. She answered, his voice thick with regret, "I didn't mean it that way." She said, "You meant every wound," her tone steady with fire. He said, "We can fix this," and she almost laughed. She said, "No, I will fix me," and the strength startled her own ears. Lena messaged, "You're stronger now," and the words reached like a hand on her back. Maya whispered, "I survived your silence," and the line filled with his breathing. She said, "This is goodbye," and ended the call herself. The screen dimmed, and the night exhaled. She felt hollow, broken, but upright. The cliff had crumbled, but she had not fallen. The morning sun rose with more mercy than the night before, and Maya let the light touch her face. She said, "I am still here," and her voice carried more weight than sorrow. The coffee steamed like small forgiveness, and the air felt lighter. Ethan's name no longer flashed on her screen, replaced by work emails and a text from Lena. Lena wrote, "Breakfast?" and Maya answered, "Yes," without hesitation. She whispered, "Yes" to me, and felt a crack of strength open. She walked barefoot across the floor, the quiet no longer punishment but peace. The mug warmed her palms and she exhaled without breaking. She said, "He does not own this silence," and the walls agreed. The day stretched before her, unknown but hers, and she smiled faintly for the first time. Maya met Lena at a cafe bustling with chatter, but their corner was calm. Lena said, "You look lighter," and Maya smiled, small but true. She said, "I said goodbye," and the words felt like air finally leaving a locked room. Lena reached across, holding her wrist gently. She said, "Goodbye is also hello to yourself." Maya laughed softly, the sound fragile but real. She whispered, "I thought love was sacrifice," and Lena answered, "Love is balance." The clinking cups and hum of strangers felt like background music instead of reminders of absence. Maya said, "I think I am learning," and her chest loosened. She lifted her coffee, toasting a new beginning no one else needed to approve. That night, Maya sat with her journal, the pen trembling at first. She said, "This is my story now," and ink bloomed across the page. She wrote about love that took, and love she still deserved. Ethan's name appeared only once, then dissolved under her handwriting. She whispered, "You were a chapter, not the book," and the words steadied her breath. The lamp's glow circled her like safety, and the room felt like it finally belonged. Lena texted, "Proud of you," and Maya smiled at the screen. She said, "So am I," to herself, and it felt new, almost foreign. Her pen scratched on, building sentences into armor, paragraphs into healing. She whispered, "This will not define me," and for the first time she believed it. The weekend carried her to the park, where families laughed and couples strolled, but she walked steady on her own. Maya said, "I can hold my own hand," and laced her fingers together briefly. The air was crisp with autumn, leaves scattering in golden bursts. She sat on a bench, letting the breeze move her hair, no longer waiting for a ringtone. A child ran past with a balloon, laughter lifting the day higher. She whispered, "There is life outside of waiting," and the truth wrapped around her shoulders like warmth. Lena's call rang, but this time it was joy. She said, "Come walk with me," and the invitation felt different, no longer rescue, just friendship. Maya stood, brushing leaves from her lap, her steps lighter than yesterday. Evening arrived, and Maya stood at her window, watching city lights flicker like stars. She said, "I survived," and the declaration echoed in her chest. Ethan's shadow no longer haunted the glass, it was only her reflection. Lena texted, "Dinner soon?" and she typed back, "Yes," with no hesitation. She whispered, "I have space for joy again," her breath fogging the pain. She opened the window, letting cold air rush in, carrying away the last fragments of him. She said, "I am more than what he left," and the city seemed to nod back with glowing towers. The night hummed with traffic, but inside she was calm. She whispered, "This is my life now," and the words tasted strong. She turned off her phone, not out of fear, but freedom. Maya woke to a quiet that no longer frightened her, the air soft with dawn. She said, "I can breathe now," her chest steady. Ethan's ghost had shrunk to a whisper she no longer chased. She made tea instead of checking her phone, the steam curling like new beginnings. Lena texted, "Walk today?" And Maya smiled, "Yes." The weight of waiting had lifted, replaced by something fragile but real, her own presence. She whispered, "I am not broken, just changed," and let the words settle like sunlight. The morning felt like an introduction, not a repeat of pain. The park greeted her with laughter and rustling leaves, a world alive without her sorrow. Maya walked beside Lena, their steps unhurried. Lena said, "You glow now," and Maya laughed, surprised at the sound. She said, "I thought I lost myself," and Lena answered, "You found more than you lost." The crisp air tasted sweet, and the path curved ahead like a promise. Maya whispered, "I am enough for my own journey," and the thought fit her skin like comfort. The distance between her and Ethan no longer ached. It became irrelevant. That night, Maya returned home and opened her journal again, this time with joy instead of grief. She wrote, "I choose me," and her hand didn't shake. The page filled with dreams instead of wounds, plans instead of pleas. She said, "Tomorrow is mine," and the words looked beautiful in ink. The lamp lit her face in soft halos, and she felt safe in her solitude. Lena's call buzzed, but Maya smiled, letting it ring once before answering. She whispered, "I am no longer waiting. I am living." The truth finally carried no ache. The city skyline stretched before her as she stood on the rooftop, wind cool against her face. She said, "This is freedom," her voice carried to the stars. Ethan's memory no longer felt like chains, just a story filed away. She leaned into the railing, heart steady, eyes clear. The lights below flickered like constellations, each one a reminder she was part of something bigger. Lena joined her, quiet but smiling, and Maya whispered, I survived the distance, and I found myself. For the first time, she believed survival was victory. Back inside, her phone lit once more with Ethan's name, but she didn't flinch. She said no more, and let it ring unanswered. The glow faded, leaving only peace in its place. She turned to the window, watching the city shimmer like a promise kept. She whispered, You were the lesson, not the ending, and her reflection looked stronger than she remembered. The silence no longer hollowed her. It crowned her. She closed the curtains gently and said, I am free. The night held her words like truth, final and unshakable.